Well, there's a lot of conversations around tripartite agreements, and we have a number of negotiations going on for joint investment between ourselves, Japan, and India. For example, even in terms of creating specialized Medicare centers. But more fundamentally, there is a number of Japanese companies, including Tusho, that is engaged in pharmaceutical trade, you know, providing medication, and we are hoping some of that conversation can translate in them opening plants here, because really we are very interested in encouraging investments that are going to help us do two things: grow the number of jobs, and not just jobs, but decent jobs, because our population is a trained population. So we want to be able to give them jobs that are dignified jobs. But number two, we also want production of Medicare facilities and medicines that are cheap and accessible. And so the discussions is around really having us as a production plant rather than just receiving medication, you know. Yes. Now we are looking at encouraging access also to the Japanese market, you know. So there's a lot of conversations around this. We are looking to technology transfer out of Japan to us in all the areas. If you think about affordable housing, if you think about agriculture in terms of research, but also in terms of the quality of seeds and standards to access the market. If you think about universal health, I was just talking about both facilities, equipment, but also pharmaceutical industry. You know, so really the portfolio of opportunities is quite huge, and we are going to do everything. The Kenyan delegation will be doing everything to make sure that we can optimize the resources that are in Japan. In fact, the other area is the area of technology and the digital economy. You know that we are a vanguard nation in this area, and we hope that we can get more Japanese investors in the fintechs, in the digital platforms and innovations that we are having, support for IAB. But Japan also helps us in terms of peace and security. They are one of the supporters for our international peace training centers, both in Karen but also in Embakasi. And these have become centers of excellence for pre-deployment training, not just for us, but for the East African region and the larger African region. So the support and the relationship that we continue to build with Japan is a growing one, and it is a very, very beneficial one. And we believe that TCAT 7 in Yokohama provides us another platform to continue reaffirming that relationship in a positive way. We are hoping as we go into TCAT 7, there will be a review of the progress made, because as you know, the investment of Japan is not just in Kenya. They see us as a gateway into the East African region. We know they are in East Africa, we know they are in Rwanda, we know they are in Morocco, they are in Algeria, they are in Cote d'Ivoire and many other countries. And so one of the things that is going to happen in Yokohama is a review of the progress. How far have we come? What are the new areas like the blue economy we are talking about? And you know that Japan is very well developed in terms of its blue economy. What are the areas in terms of sustainable environmental management? Again, another area that we work very closely with the Japanese government. So there's a whole range, and it's very exciting to continue seeing how diverse this relationship and benefits are for us and for the African continent. I think the people of Kenya should expect that we will continue to strengthen our relationship with Japan. And by strengthening that relationship with Japan, we will be negotiating to access the opportunities in terms of resources, in terms of investment portfolios that Japan has to offer within the framework of TCAT, you know. And it is very important for Kenyans to know that we are among the top beneficiaries of TCAT, you know. And the reason for that is because we have the right environment, regulatory environment. we have the right environment in terms of business, servicing business and investment. So we become a place of choice for investment. And so we expect to continue seeing more interest by Japanese companies, want to invest, but also to invest together with Kenyan capital and Kenyan business people. We will be speaking to the Japanese around questions of helping SMEs to scale up, you know, because we know our country is largely made up of a huge portfolio of small and medium enterprises. And so part of the discussions we'll be having with them is how we can provide a framework of support where SMEs can access both support in terms of finance, in terms of technology, in terms of capacity to grow. By their growing, they are not just increasing production, but they are also creating the jobs that we are looking for. They are also improving quality. But we are also beginning to generate volumes of production here that we can transfer into the African continent. And that is why we have been very keen, even in terms of supporting the Continental Free Trade Area, because we see it as an opportunity. And the conversation between us and Japanese is to really view us and for us to provide them a bridge with which they can expand their portfolio across the 1.2 billion market of the African continent. We are preparing to travel to Yokohama for the 7th TICAD Summit. 2 years ago, Kenya was the first African member state to host TICAD outside of Japan. And this is in line, of course, with our desire to continue providing leadership in terms of driving Africa's development and its partnership with other countries from across the world. TICAD 6, you will recall, was a resounding success, bringing together more than 100 companies from across the continent to interact with their Japanese counterpart. We had more than 70 memorandums of understanding signed by African and Japanese companies. And in a sense, it was a platform that grew the footprint of Japanese investment in Africa. So even as a way of just looking at what were the successes, first of all, it reaffirmed our ability to convene the world in Kenya. And you know that from that time, our country has continued to be a primary convener. TICAD 6 was part of reaffirmation of that branding of our country, and we continue to be conferencing a city of choice, really. We, from a bilateral point of view, we have seen the growth of Japanese investment. If we take Tusho, the conglomerate of Toyota, you can see how much they have grown. We know they are already beginning a number of assembling plants for the Hilux, for the Hills, for, you know, a whole range. In fact, they were telling me the idea is to produce more than 10 types of vehicles out of our country. So, and this, of course, speaks to our priority on manufacturing. You will know that the revival of the motor industry has been one of the priorities of this administration, and so the investment of Japan has continued to expand this priority of President Uhuru Kenyatta's government. But it is not just in manufacturing. We know they are also involved in the health sector. We know they are also involved in capacity building, in technology transfer. So we know they have been engaged in the modernization of the Mombasa port, which is very, very important as a gateway, not just for ourselves, but for the region. So they have been involved in renewable energy, you know, and there's a lot of discussion about them expanding off-grid production of renewable green energy. So we have seen a considerable growth of Japanese investment here. Regionally, we continue to partner with Japan in terms of their support for regional peace and development agenda. Multilaterally, we continue to engage. You will know Japan was one of the countries that co-sponsored the Blue Economy Conference. Again, another resounding success, not just in terms of conferencing, but in terms of creating consensus around an area that is critical for development, not just of ourselves, but of the rest of the world. So overall, a great experience since TCAT 6. First of all, President Kenyatta is the global youth champion. And you will know that the youth are core to his development agenda. He believes, and rightly so, that it is the youth who are going to push us to our prosperity, you know. And he does not just believe this, but he has gone on to create firm structures and a whole set of a toolkit to support this. You know, that is why we have the youth fund in the beginning. Now it's going to be Biashara Bank. But in addition to that, all our discussions with partners, whether it is MasterCards, whether it is the discussions we are having with Singapore on fintech, and it was very interesting to see the exhibition at the fintech meeting that happened at the Kenya School of Monetary Studies. More than 70% of the exhibitors were young people, because these are the people who are having all these bubbling with all these new ideas. So there is no doubt that the youth are at the heart of President Kenyatta's visioning of his development trajectory. So it's not where is he seeing the youth? The youth are they're the ones driving this. If you go to the HIAB, you know, I mean, it is a youth theater. It is a youth theater. And what we are trying to do is really to begin discussions around questions of patent and intellectual property so that we can protect these innovations. But number two, beginning to link those innovations with industry so that we can begin to scale them up. There is no reason why they should remain as projects, classroom projects. A lot of these are good ideas, but we want to move them from being good ideas to business ideas that are bankable and that you can scale and that you can get to the market and that you can push and take advantage of the, as I said, 1.2 billion African market. We have to engage with this. And this will only be done with the driver, and this driver are the youth. Okay. Now our foreign policy is Africa-centric. Japan is an Africa, AU-Japan partnership. And of course, we will take advantage of being in Yokohama to renew our relations with other member states of the African Union. We take the African continent as a central pillar of both not just our foreign policy, but our prosperity agenda. Our neighborhood is very important. You know, we have a customs union in the East African region. And so, yes, we will be having conversations with all our neighbors, with all the African countries with whom we have very, very good relations. And part of it is because we believe very strongly that our own prosperity is inextricably linked to that of the African continent. So we will be renewing our relationship with all the member states, yes. Okay. We are looking forward to Yokohama because the Africa-Japan relationship has been a beneficial one. And we hope that we can continue to sustain it for the benefit of the African continent.
In 2016, there were 41 Japanese companies based in Nairobi or in Kenya. As we sit here now in 2019, we have 57 companies based in Kenya. That is an increase of about 54%. That's a major feat when it comes to foreign investments into Kenya. And the genesis of that actually starts off from when President Uhuru Kenyatta visited Japan in 2015. And he had the opportunity of addressing the Kenya Business Forum at that time. And he challenged Japanese companies to make major inroads into Kenya, to be more aggressive in investing in Kenya. Jobs have been created, investment opportunities have increased. Kenya's profile has shot up because of major companies setting base in Kenya. The latest ones being Toshiba and Nippon Express. Our laws, especially those pertaining to the Investment Act, are very attractive. The service industry also plays a huge role. Huge role. The Japanese companies obviously look at those kind of opportunities. They know our banking sector works very well. The ICT infrastructure is excellent. Moving forward now to TICAD 7. Kenya is the only African country which is hosting 4 side events. 4 side events. And these are Blue Economy, there is a Diaspora, and there is a ICPD 25, because ICPD 25 is being held this coming November in Nairobi. So we need to tell TICAD membership of what it's all about and how we are going to engage in Nairobi come November. So all those side events are very, very significant. For TICAD, when you look at issues pertaining to technology advancement, you can tie them very easily to the health sector, because we are trying to fight non-communicable diseases. The issue of cancer recently has been very pronounced in Kenya. Issues of nutrition, trying to make health services better to the ordinary mwananchi. And we believe during this TICAD we'll be able to achieve quite a lot as far as the health sector is concerned. Don't forget that during TICAD 6 in Nairobi, Kenya alongside Senegal and Ghana were picked up as pilot countries for universal health care. We are looking forward to a lot of successes as far as Kenya is concerned, more so given the fact that we are participating in those or hosting those 4 side events. The business community coming out from Kenya is a big delegation. The Japanese companies that have so far confirmed participation, registered, I think they're numbering 83. 3 years down the line, I'm sure a lot would have happened. What we are looking for is the business community to be part and parcel of the TICAD process, because it can no longer be just aid. These PPPs are becoming the way to do business as far as governments are concerned. And we are proud as Kenyans that we are way ahead when it comes to those kind of matters.